Or you one of the chosen ones who no longer feels at home in the church? If you've been sensing this strange, unexplainable detachment, an inner distance that doesn't come from rebellion, bitterness, or lack of faith, then listen closely. You are not backsliding. You are not losing God. You are not becoming spiritually cold. Something far holier is happening to you, something deeply misunderstood by those who have not walked the narrow path that you walk. This message is for the ones who love God but feel out of place in the places that claim to represent Him. For the ones who show up every week and feel spiritually starved. For the ones who used to thrive in church environments but now feel like a visitor in the very house where they once felt at home. For the ones who feel unseen, unheard, and unrecognized, not by accident, but by divine design. If this is you, then you need to understand one thing: your separation is not rejection, it is redirection. God is not pushing you away from His presence. He is pulling you away from structures, systems, and environments that you have outgrown spiritually. When God calls a chosen one into a higher purpose, He often begins by shaking their comfort zones and disconnecting them from the places where they once found belonging. This is why you feel the way you do. This is why nothing feels the same. This is why you sit in the sanctuary, listening, observing, watching, and yet something in your spirit whispers, this is no longer your home. It is not arrogance. It is not rebellion. It is not a sign that you are too good for the church. What's happening to you is spiritual maturity. It is awakening. It is elevation. And it is the preparation for a calling that requires more than routine, more than tradition, more than weekly attendance and predictable sermons. God is separating His chosen ones from the familiar so He can lead them into the supernatural. For many, the church was once a place of spiritual nourishment. But for chosen ones, there comes a time when that season ends, not because God is done with the church, but because He is not done with you. You are being pulled into deeper waters, into a different dimension of spiritual understanding, discernment, and intimacy with Him. The walls that once protected you now limit you. The structure that once shaped you now restrains you. The environment that once fed you can no longer carry the weight of your spiritual growth. This divine separation often begins subtly. You start noticing that sermons no longer speak to where you are. Conversations feel shallow. Social dynamics feel distracting. You crave depth, revelation, and truth, but what's offered is repetition, comfort, and routine. You start seeing spiritual politics, hidden agendas, favoritism, ego, and the human side of religion that you once overlooked. You begin to feel like a spectator, observing everything with a level of spiritual discernment that makes you feel like an outsider. And yet, your love for God remains. Your hunger for Him deepens. Your connection to Him becomes more intimate than ever. This confusion leads many chosen ones to question themselves. Why do I feel disconnected? Why do I feel different? Why do I feel spiritually alone even in a crowd of believers? Why do I feel God drawing me away from what I once cherished? But the truth is simple. God is calling you into a higher purpose, and not everyone can go where He is taking you. Chosen ones do not stay where everyone else stays. Their spiritual journey does not follow the traditional blueprint. Their path is not mainstream. Their growth requires solitude, consecration, and a spiritual environment that cannot be found in every building. God often hides His chosen ones, separates them, isolates them, and even disconnects them from the very environments that helped build their foundation, because destiny requires separation. Think of Moses, raised in Egypt but called out of Egypt. Think of David, anointed in public but processed in private. Think of Elijah, fed by ravens in the wilderness. Think of Jesus, often withdrawing from the crowds, even from His closest followers, to be alone with the Father. Elevation always begins with separation. God removes you from the noise so you can hear Him clearly. He removes you from the crowd so you can discover your identity. He removes you from spiritual dependency so you can develop spiritual authority. The church was never meant to be your cage. It was meant to be your classroom. When the lesson is over, the bell rings. And many chosen ones are hearing that spiritual bell right now, even if they don't understand it. You are being called into a dimension of faith where God becomes your teacher, your mentor, your guide, and your voice. You are being led into a season where your relationship with Him becomes direct, raw, authentic, and unmediated. This is the season where God teaches you Himself, not through filters, not through tradition, not through routine, but through revelation. And because of this, you will no longer feel satisfied with surface-level spirituality. You cannot pretend to belong where your spirit no longer fits. You cannot shrink yourself to make others comfortable. You cannot silence your discernment to maintain social peace. You cannot ignore the inner shift that God has initiated. Your separation is sacred. Your disconnection is divine. Your discomfort is prophetic. God is preparing you for something beyond the familiar, something that requires a level of spiritual strength, clarity, and consecration that not everyone around you carries. You are called to walk in a depth of faith that goes beyond Sunday mornings. You are being prepared for spiritual assignments, spiritual warfare, divine encounters, and a level of spiritual authority that cannot be cultivated in environments built for the masses. Chosen ones carry a different spiritual frequency. They see what others do not see. They feel what others ignore. They discern what others cannot comprehend. This sensitivity makes you stand out, even in religious spaces, especially in religious spaces. And because of this, many chosen ones are misunderstood by those who confuse their spiritual calling with rebellion. But God knows your heart. He knows your loyalty. He knows your devotion. He knows your obedience. He knows your hunger. He knows your questions. He knows your confusion. He knows that you still love Him, even while walking out of the places that once shaped you. When God separates a chosen one from the church, it is not to isolate you from believers, it is to isolate you from distractions. It is not to break your faith, it is to deepen it. It is not to weaken your connection, it is to strengthen it. God is removing you so He can refill you. He is pulling you away so He can pour into you. For some, this separation is temporary. For others, it is permanent. But for all chosen ones, it is purposeful. God is calling you into deeper revelation, higher discernment, greater spiritual authority, divine assignments, supernatural encounters, personal intimacy with Him, a level of spiritual maturity that cannot grow in crowded spaces. This is why you no longer feel at home in the church. You are not breaking away from God, you are breaking through to Him. Many chosen ones are entering a season of wilderness, not as punishment but as preparation. In the wilderness, there are no crowds, no applause, no positions, no platforms, only God, only revelation, only transformation, only spiritual growth that cannot be faked or forced. And when the wilderness season ends, when God brings you out, you will return stronger, wiser, more powerful, more discerning, and more aligned with your purpose than ever before. You will carry a spiritual authority that cannot be bought or taught. You will walk with a confidence that doesn't come from man, but from God. You will become a vessel of clarity, healing, truth, and divine assignment. You are not lost. You are being led. You are not drifting. You are being redirected. You are not spiritually weak. You are spiritually evolving. You are not leaving the faith. You are walking into your purpose. The church was your beginning, not your ending. Your journey is bigger than a building. Your calling is bigger than a community. Your purpose is bigger than a pew. You were never meant to blend in, you were meant to break through. You were not designed to follow the crowd, you were chosen to follow God, even when the path leads you away from what others consider normal. This is your divine separation. This is your spiritual awakening. This is your higher calling. And if your spirit has been restless, searching, longing, questioning, then understand this. God is calling you closer, deeper, and higher. Your time in the familiar is over. Your season of elevation has begun. And if you are honest with yourself, you've felt this shift for a long time. You've tried to ignore it. You've tried to pretend nothing was changing. You've tried to fit in again, to blend in, to feel normal, like you once did. You've tried to sing the songs with the same passion, to pray the same prayers with the same fire, to connect with the same people with the same comfort. But something inside you has changed. Something in your spirit no longer responds to the same environment the way it used to. The spiritual diet that once nourished you now feels too small. The conversations that once inspired you now feel recycled. The fellowship that once uplifted you now feels like surface-level routine. You are growing, quietly, internally, spiritually, and that growth has created a gap between who you are becoming and who you used to be. This gap is not a flaw. It is a sign. Many chosen ones don't realize that spiritual evolution always causes spiritual displacement. When God grows you, He stretches you. When He stretches you, you outgrow things. When you outgrow things, you feel disconnected from what once felt comfortable. This discomfort is divine. It is God's way of moving you without forcing you. It is His way of whispering, "There is more for you than this." You may still have love for the people. You may still honor the place. You may still appreciate the experiences that shaped you. But you cannot deny the truth rising in your spirit: you don't fit there anymore. And forcing yourself to stay in a place God is pulling you from will only delay your destiny. You are not being separated because you are too good. You are being separated because you are being prepared. You are being repositioned. You are being refined. And you are being set apart for a mission that requires a unique level of clarity and intimacy with God that cannot be cultivated in a crowded environment. For chosen ones, belonging is rarely permanent. God moves you like a soldier. When one assignment ends, another begins. He takes you out of places you've mastered so He can place you into spaces where you must rely on His voice again, not just your comfort or familiarity. This is why chosen ones never stay stagnant. They evolve. They shift. They transition. And their spiritual environments must evolve too. There are seasons where God hides you because He needs to heal you. Seasons where He isolates you because He needs to instruct you. Seasons where He disconnects you because He needs to protect you. Seasons where He pulls you away because He needs to promote you. And that is the season you are walking into right now. You may not fully understand it, but your spirit does. Deep inside, you feel the pull. You feel the call. You feel the divine tugging on your soul, the invitation to step into something deeper, something purer, something higher. This is not a punishment. It is an elevation. What many people don't realize is that chosen ones carry a different level of spiritual sensitivity. They can feel when something is no longer aligned with their soul. They can sense when the atmosphere has changed. They can discern when God's presence is moving them elsewhere. And when God begins pulling you into a new dimension, the places He once allowed become the places He begins to restrict. This is why you no longer feel spiritually fed in the same way. God is trying to transition you from milk to meat, from basics to depth, from routine to revelation, from religion to relationship, from the crowd to the calling. And the truth is this: not everyone will understand your transition. Some people will think you're withdrawing. Others will think you're drifting. Some will say you're changing, and they'll mean it as criticism. But they won't see the nights you've cried out to God asking for clarity. They won't see the hours you've spent in prayer seeking direction. They won't know the spiritual battles you've been fighting in silence. They won't feel the constant pull of the Holy Spirit pushing you towards something their eyes cannot yet perceive. You are not leaving the church. You are leaving the limitations of a chapter that has already fulfilled its purpose in your life. There is nothing wrong with the church. But the church is not always the final destination for every chosen one. Sometimes it is the starting point. Sometimes it is the training ground. Sometimes it is the foundation. But for many chosen ones, their highest purpose is not found inside the walls but beyond them. You have been called to carry light into places the church cannot reach. Into hearts that will never enter a sanctuary. Into spaces where traditional religion cannot speak. Into conversations where spiritual titles mean nothing, but spiritual authenticity means everything. You may not be a pastor, but you are a messenger. You may not have a pulpit, but your presence carries power. You may not have a platform, but your purpose will create one. And that is why God is separating you now. If you stayed where you were, you would shrink. You would settle. You would limit yourself to what is comfortable instead of stepping into what is destined. God is too invested in your purpose to allow you to remain in a place where your wings cannot expand. Many chosen ones are spiritual nomads, not lost, but led. Not unstable, but guided. Not wandering, but following the wind of the Spirit, like Abraham, who left without knowing where he was going. Like Elijah, who moved according to God's direction. Like John the Baptist, who did not preach in temples but in the wilderness where those who were truly hungry would find him. You are being led like them. You are being called like them. You are being prepared like them. And like them, you must learn to trust God even when the path is unfamiliar and doesn't look like what others consider normal spirituality. This is why God isolates you. Because revelation requires silence. Destiny requires separation. Calling requires clarity. And you cannot hear God clearly when you are surrounded by voices telling you who you should be, how you should think, or what you should believe. Your spirit is awakening. Your discernment is sharpening. Your purpose is activating. You are becoming spiritually self-aware on a level you never imagined. And once that awakening begins, you can't go back to sleep. You cannot unsee what God has shown you. You cannot unfeel the shift He has placed within you. And you cannot pretend the environment you are in is still aligned with your assignment. For many chosen ones, the disconnection becomes unbearable. The spiritual hunger becomes insatiable. The thirst for truth becomes stronger than the desire for acceptance. And when that happens, God begins pulling you out. Not because you're abandoning your faith, but because you're maturing in it. There is a version of you waiting on the other side of this separation, stronger, wiser, bolder, more spiritually grounded, more in tune with God's voice, more aligned with your mission. This new version of you cannot emerge in old environments. This is why God is removing you now. Your spiritual gifts are growing. Your discernment is expanding. Your capacity is increasing. Your mission is elevating. And your spirit is outgrowing the place you once called home. At first, this transition feels lonely. It feels strange to walk away from what once brought comfort. It feels like losing a family. It feels like stepping into wilderness. But the wilderness is where God meets His chosen ones face to face. It is where He reveals things that cannot be revealed in crowded spaces. It is where He reshapes you into the version of yourself that your destiny requires. Your divine separation is not a mistake. It is a setup. Slowly, God is teaching you to rely on His voice in ways you never have before. He is showing you signs, patterns, synchronicities, and confirmations you used to overlook. He is awakening you to spiritual realms you were once blind to. He is sharpening your intuition, your vision, your hearing, your sense of purpose. He is transforming you from the inside out. Chosen ones are often misunderstood because their path is not common. But that is because their calling is not common. You were not created to blend into systems, religious or otherwise. You were created to illuminate them, to challenge them, to bring clarity to them, to elevate them, to reveal truth within them. Your presence alone is disruptive in spaces that resist growth. This is why the environment that once welcomed you now feels tight, restricting, or spiritually muted, because you have outgrown it. You are not meant to be a follower of tradition. You are meant to be a carrier of revelation. You are not meant to fit in. You are meant to transform. You are not meant to settle. You are meant to ascend. And ascension always requires letting go. God is calling you into deeper prayer, not just prayer for comfort, but prayer for revelation. He is calling you into deeper worship, not to perform, but to connect. He is calling you into spiritual solitude, where He can download into your spirit the things you were not ready to receive before. He is calling you to trust Him more, rely on Him more, and hear Him more clearly. This transition is not the end of your spiritual life. It is the beginning of your true spiritual assignment. And when the time is right, God may lead you to another community, or He may call you to create one. He may send you back with wisdom, or He may send you forward with a mission. He may reconnect you, or He may release you. But whatever He does, it will be aligned with your purpose. This is not about walking away from God. This is about walking with Him more closely than ever. You are being set apart. You are being refined. You are being elevated. You are being called. You are being transformed. You are being prepared. You are becoming who you were always meant to be. Your divine separation is the doorway to your divine assignment. And your spirit already knows it. What you are experiencing right now is the unfolding of a spiritual identity that has been waiting inside you for years. Maybe even since childhood. Maybe since the moment you first felt God's presence. Maybe since the moment you realized that your relationship with Him was never like everyone else's. You loved deeper. You sensed things others missed. You felt spiritual currents before they became visible. You carried burdens that weren't yours. You protected people without seeking recognition. And you were drawn to God in a way that could never be explained logically. That is the mark of a chosen one. And now, the same God who called you is calling you again, but this time, into something higher. Something more demanding. Something more sacred. Something more personal. Something that requires you to walk alone for a season so you can finally hear the instructions that were meant only for you. The truth is, most people in the church are called to community, but chosen ones are called to intimacy. They are called to solitude, not because they are antisocial or isolated, but because their purpose cannot be shaped in crowded spaces. Their spiritual identity cannot be formed through groupthink. Their calling cannot be confirmed by human approval. Chosen ones are shaped differently because they are sent differently. Your journey is not meant to mirror the journey of those around you. And that's why your spiritual disconnection feels so intense. You are not meant to move with the crowd. You are meant to move with God alone. And when God calls a chosen one into a deeper dimension, the separation feels like a spiritual earthquake. You feel the shifting in your bones. You feel the pressure pushing you inward. You feel the silence echoing louder than noise. You feel God's hand pulling you away from comfort, not because He's punishing you, but because He's promoting you. But promotion in the spiritual realm rarely looks like promotion in the physical world. Before God elevates you, He isolates you. Before He reveals your purpose, He removes your distractions. Before He expands your influence, He narrows your environment. Before He brings new people into your life, He clears the space by removing the old. This is why familiar faces suddenly feel distant. Why old conversations no longer stimulate your spirit. Why routine gatherings drain you more than they uplift you. Why you find yourself craving silence more than company. Why you feel misunderstood, not because something is wrong with you, but because something has awakened within you that others cannot yet see. Many chosen ones experience a spiritual pulling away, long before they know why. They feel the weight of a calling without the clarity of it. They feel the tug of destiny without the blueprint. They feel God shifting their heart without giving them the map. It feels confusing, yet strangely peaceful. Heavy, yet holy. Uncertain, yet somehow safe. That inner conflict you feel is not spiritual confusion. It is spiritual transition. And transition always begins with tension. The tension of holding onto what was while reaching toward what is becoming. The tension of loving the place you came from while knowing it no longer aligns with where God is leading you. The tension of feeling gratitude for your past while stepping bravely into your future. People may accuse you of changing. But the truth is deeper, you are being transformed. When God wants to elevate your spiritual sight, He must take you out of environments where your vision is restricted. When He wants to sharpen your discernment, He must remove the voices that drown out His whisper. When He wants to reveal your next assignment, He must disconnect you from assignments that have expired. This is why the separation feels sudden, even if God has been preparing you for it for years. Something in your spirit has outgrown the old season, the old lessons, the old patterns, the old spiritual environment. You cannot fit the new version of you into the old structure, no matter how hard you try. The moment God unlocks a new dimension of purpose in your life, the old dimension becomes too small to contain you. For many chosen ones, this separation also brings an identity crisis. You start questioning where you belong. You start wondering if you still fit anywhere at all. You feel suspended between two worlds, no longer comfortable where you came from, yet not fully sure where you're going. This, in between, season is one of the most sacred seasons of your life. Because this is where God begins revealing the hidden layers of your identity. You begin discovering parts of yourself you suppressed to fit in. Parts of yourself you silenced to be accepted. Parts of yourself you dimmed because others weren't ready for your light. Parts of yourself you hid because the church often celebrates conformity more than calling. But now, slowly, quietly, powerfully, God is awakening the warrior within you. The prophet within you. The healer within you. The prayer intercessor within you. The teacher within you. The visionary within you. The spiritual leader within you. And none of these gifts can flourish in environments that limit or misunderstand them. The closer you move toward your divine assignment, the more misaligned the old environment becomes. Not because it is bad, but because it is not designed to hold the weight of your next season. Think of a snake shedding its skin. The old skin is not evil. It is simply too tight for the growth happening inside. The snake is not running away from something, it is growing into something. That is you. The old cannot contain the new you. The familiar cannot contain your evolution. The comfortable cannot contain your calling. The expected cannot contain your purpose. And so God separates you. Some people will interpret your separation as disloyalty. But God sees it as obedience. Some will interpret your quietness as disconnecting. But God sees it as preparation. Some will say you are moving away from God. But in reality, you are moving closer to Him than ever before. You may still pray with others, but the most powerful prayers suddenly happen alone. You may still listen to sermons, but the deepest revelations come straight from God Himself. You may still love gathering with believers, but your spirit now craves solitude, scripture, and divine whisper more than anything else. This is not spiritual decline. This is spiritual maturity. You are entering a stage where your relationship with God is no longer filtered through religious culture, church traditions, or other people's expectations. You are stepping into a personal covenant with Him. And the deeper that covenant becomes, the more detached you feel from anything that dilutes your relationship with God. This is why some chosen ones stop feeling spiritually energized by the same spaces that once fed them. Your spirit is being reprogrammed for higher encounters, visions, intuition, prophetic dreams, revelations, divine assignments. Your sensitivity to God's presence is increasing. Your intuition is sharpening. Your awareness of spiritual energy is heightening. You are no longer operating at the level of spiritual infancy. Your connection with God is becoming direct, not dependent, not mediated, not indirect, not shallow, not external, direct. And that requires distance from anything that clouds that connection. Your season of separation is not about leaving the church, it's about becoming the church. Walking revelation, living testimony, moving light. That's what chosen ones are called to be. Not members, messengers. Not followers, forerunners. Not spectators, warriors. Not attendees, anointed ones. God calls His chosen ones out so He can send them back in with power. But you cannot walk in that power until you master the silence of the wilderness. In this season, God will amplify your spiritual gifts, reveal your true calling, expose hidden enemies, strengthen your discernment, deepen your intimacy with Him, purify your motives, heal your wounds, align your purpose, elevate your spiritual authority. This season will not be comfortable, but it will be transformative. And on the other side of it, you will not return as the same person. You will return as someone God can trust with influence, with responsibility, with revelation, and with impact. You are not being removed. You are being refined. You are not being disconnected. You are being redirected. You are not losing community. You are finding your identity. You are not declining. You are ascending. You are not spiritually confused. You are spiritually awakened. And if you feel this message resonating deep inside your chest, like truth vibrating through your bones, then understand this. Your divine separation is proof of your divine assignment. And the God who called you out has already prepared the place He is calling you into.